Everybody, well, I'm excited to meet you guys. We'll start here if you guys want to kind of scoot in just a little bit. I'm Forrest. You guys probably got my name already. So in the Park Service, you go by Ranger or whatever your first name is. So I'm Ranger Forrest. Perfect name for the job. And I got my wife, Alex, here with me. We work out here together as interpretive park rangers. She's gonna record this so that I can have this for like my own benefit, like seeing how I'm doing my programs and everything and taking notes or whatever. So I have a couple different talks recorded, but I wanted to get one to you guys because I'm excited to have an ecology group here. I give this talk like all the time to people from all over the place, and I never know who is going to be listening or if they have any interest in the ecology whatsoever, which is kind of like what the whole talk is about, you know? So it's cool to be here and like get to talk to you guys and, you know, give a program to people who might actually be interested in what I'm saying. Sometimes people just like wander off in the middle of my program or whatever. Other times people hang out and ask me questions. So you guys are from USF, University of San Francisco, right? So is everybody, where are you guys from? Like California or broader or?
Nevada.
Who's from the furthest away from the Bay?
Philadelphia.
Nice. Okay, sweet. Some little East Coasters. Everyone else is California?
Nevada.
Washington, nice. And so you guys are all environmental science majors?
Environmental science or environmental studies.
Environmental studies, awesome. So I'm interested, like what made you guys like want to get into that? Did you guys grow up with a passion for nature, or anybody that wants to jump in at any point? Like this is super mellow, like conversational, like ask a question, whatever. But so how did you guys get interested in that? I'm curious, just like what brought you to decide to major in that major?
Well, for me, it was more just being more connected to nature,
Yeah.
as well as it can be a way to indirectly help people.
Yeah.
Because providing recreational spaces and connection to the environment, that's what brought me into this space.
Nice, that's awesome, man. Anybody else want to share like what drew you to what you're doing or what you're majoring in?
I think environmental issues are just really becoming a problem, especially now when
Yes.
we're kind of overusing our resources and exploiting ecosystems. So
Yes.
I think it's kind of a very important major to
I love it. That's
study.
a good answer. Anybody else want to share what brought them to it or any thoughts? Same. Everyone just kind of echoes. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I like that you guys are studying that. I think this is like a major thing to focus on right now with all of the issues we're facing. Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm stoked for you guys that you're studying this stuff and learning and everything. So we are in a national park. Did you guys know you're going to a national park today? So we're in the Golden Gate National Recreation Area. The National Park Service just had its 108th birthday in August. Yay, happy birthday to the park. The National Park Service was founded with the Organic Act of 1916. And the Organic Act established the National Park Service and stated our mission, which is to conserve and protect the historic sites, the wildlife, and the natural areas for our enjoyment today, but also for future generations, which is the big trick. You know what I mean? Like, how do we have, for example, like 1 million or 10 million people go to Yosemite every year without Yosemite getting destroyed? You know, which is kind of what the Park Service is there to do, is to try to like keep the place safe. And there's a couple different type of park rangers. So you guys are all perfectly poised to become park rangers if you want to. We have two different types of park rangers in the Park Service. We have the law enforcement park rangers. They're the ones that carry the guns and write the tickets and have the truck with the sirens and all that, you know. And then we have interpretive park rangers, which is what we do. And we ask people to follow the rules, but we have a badge on to make us look official, but this is our only like real weapon. Help, you know what I mean? We don't really have any sort of like backup other than like calling in the radio, but like we ask people to follow the rules, but our job is to be interpreters, which is really cool because every interpreter gets to use their own passions and interests to interpret the site. So for example, you could come on a Point Benita Lighthouse tour and hear an interpretive ranger give you their interpretation of what the history means out here, and another ranger would have a completely different interpretation of that history. I like to talk about some of the history of the lighthouse, but I like to talk about the ecosystem and what we can learn from people that were here before us, right? So we all get to interpret differently, and one of the principles of interpretation is not just like an information dump or like an educational thing, but it's provocation. So my goal today is to like inspire you guys to have thoughts that you might not have walked down to the lighthouse with. Like, you guys are all already eco-minded. A lot of people just come out here thinking they're just gonna see the lighthouse, and then they hear a talk and they're like, whoa, that's more than I signed up for, you know? So, but that means we're doing our job, you know what I mean? And like, this is a great spot to tell these stories because there is so much history out here, you know? So, okay, so the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, have you guys explored this much? It goes from Pacifica down south all the way up to Point Reyes National Seashore. Olima Valley is part of the GGNRA. Point Reyes is actually a separate park entity, but we have 19 separate ecosystems, 82,000 acres. Last year, the GGNRA brought in like almost 15 million visitors. And the difference between a national park and a national recreation area, which is what we're in right now, is that in a recreation area, there's too many entry points to like charge people. So like, you go to Yosemite or Yellowstone or whatever, there's a gate, you pay to get in the gate. Here you can kind of like come and go. We have a tunnel here, but all of this is Golden Gate National Recreation Area. And there's just millions of ways to get into the park. So, and a couple cool stories. I'm going to tell you guys a lot of stories today of conservation and heroes. Maybe tell a story of a couple villains along the way, and then like tie it into what's happening now. That's kind of the plan. So we're going to make a couple stops. We're going to stop right down, just not far from where we are now, for a few minutes, and then we're going to go down to before the tunnel, and I'm going to give you guys the bulk of the program there. Generally, I go out to the lighthouse to wrap up the program, but on a day like today, when it's windy and foggy and there's nowhere to get out of the wind, standing there for like 20 minutes listening to a ranger talk can be pretty brutal. So I'm going to give you guys most of the program out of the wind, like where we are right now. I work here enough to know where to stop and where not to stop. So, okay, so cool story. You know, when you drove through the tunnel to come through here today, this is actually a 3D diagram of what the plan was in the late 60s. They were going to build a high-rise condo complex in that whole valley. And probably would have put in a guarded gate. It was going to be like a wealthy, you know, to do kind of an area. If you guys have ever driven up from like Sausalito on the 101, there's an exit that says Rodeo Avenue that just goes to nowhere. They put that exit in. There was also like land developed in Tennessee Valley to get to Marancello. But what happened was locals saw this picture, because this picture is actually a photo of a 3D diagram. What's it called? Not a diagram, but a 3D model. There's a 10-foot by 20-foot model that the developer made of this. He was so excited. He was like, look at what we're going to do. And pictures of that got out to the locals, and they freaked out, and they shut it down. Thank goodness they turned it into the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, so that tunnel now leads to an open space. At the same time, this was planned to happen. Seacliff did happen. You guys know San Francisco really well, I'm sure. So if you look on the right side, you've got Land's End over there, the green space with the VA hospital up top. In the middle, you have Seacliff, and on the left over here is the Presidio. So the Golden Gate National Recreation Area became a national park in 1972, which was the same year I was born. That 1972 repeats itself through my program. I'll kind of point that out as we go. A lot of good stuff happened that year. So we were working in the Presidio when the Golden Gate National Recreation Area and I both had our 50th birthday. So that was kind of cool. But you can see over here in the middle where Seacliff is. You guys been there?
Yes.
Like some billionaires' homes over there. You can kind of see it. There's a pink coral house with a pink coral staircase that goes down to their private beach down there. Like, this all would have turned into that had this area not been saved, right? Luckily, some conservationists, some locals, some politicians all acted together. Philip Burton was one of the guys that acted quickly to get this whole area saved and turned into the GGNRA. So I'm gonna focus mostly on the ecology out here today, but I do want to give a little bit of backdrop about why we're out here in the first place. So the gold rush happened. Thousands of people came here. Before the gold rush happened, the Coast Miwok lived here for like 10,000 years in like perfect peace and harmony. Like, it's hard to even find where they were. right? And it's interesting to think about like the whole leave no trace ethic that we talk about in the Park Service. Like they had that dialed, you know what I mean? They had no lasting remnants other than some rocks and stones and some little spots here and there that they were even here. But I like to give land acknowledgement because this is Coast Miwok land that we're all standing on. And but yeah, so San Francisco became a boom town overnight because of the gold rush. Thousands of boats, thousands of people came. The population went from like 1,000 to 25,000 like overnight. There's stories like at one point there were so many abandoned boats along the wharf over there that you could like walk across the bay practically on abandoned boats. And then the story also goes that most of the people that got rich off the gold rush were like the people that sold shovels and blue jeans. If you found gold, there was a good chance you were gonna gamble it away or get shot and killed and someone would steal it from you. So it wasn't the most lucrative endeavor, but it caused San Francisco to become like this major boom city. And to this day, like it still has that entrepreneurial spirit. Like people came from all over the world to San Francisco to try to strike it rich. But the first 3 lighthouses in California were located right here in the Bay. Alcatraz was the first one, and then Fort Point was the second one, and then Point Bonita was the third. So first 3 lighthouses on the West Coast were built right here in the Bay Area. So I think we're gonna walk down just a little bit over here. Anybody have any questions or comments or anything so far?
I have a question.
Yes.
We heard that y'all were like seasonal rangers.
Yes.
What does that entail?
Okay, so good question. So yeah, my wife and I, we've been working for the Park Service for 5 seasons. I meant to share this when I was talking about the different types of rangers. So we're seasonal, which is awesome. I would have done this like right out of high school had I known about it. So seasonal Park Service employees, most of the parks are like summer parks. There are some winter parks, but so what we do is we work in the summer for the National Park Service. We get the winter off. So it's 6 months on, 6 months off. And we worked in the Presidio for a couple summers on the maintenance crew, cleaning the beaches. We went up to Colorado one summer and worked at Rocky Mountain National Park. And then we've been here the last 2 summers. So in our off season, we built a really sweet van. You guys heard of van life?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We have a beautiful van. I'll show you pics. We converted a ProMaster into like a Southwestern cabin. It is amazing. Like kind of like a Southwestern vibe with like red cedar ceiling, white cedar walls, and bamboo floors, and some of her artwork in there. So we take the van, we go Central Coast in the winter, and then go out to the desert. Like we like the whole Sonoran Desert's beautiful, but like Joshua Tree, Death Valley, Tucson. So yeah, some people do seasonal here, like they never take a break. Other people work on and off, and then they have year-round jobs too. For people that really want to work 12 months out of the year, but why would you want to do that? Right? Yeah, so seasonal's fun, and it's easy to get those jobs because they need a lot of help. So, but okay, cool. We'll walk down just a little bit. I'll tell you guys a couple more stories as we go.